Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Holy Lineage podcast. Get cozy, get comfy, grab a coffee, a tea, or a snack because today we're going to talk about what some people would consider to be a glitch in the matrix and what other people, like me, would consider to be clear evidence of guardian angels. So I'm going to tell 2 of my own stories, and then I'm going to tell 2 sort of user-submitted stories that I thought were really cool. So let's just start off by one of my first stories, which is when I believe this glitch in the matrix moment was actually an angel manifesting as a human being to save my life. I was about 15 at the time, and I remember this like it was yesterday. So, when I was 15, I took the bus to school, like the transit, public transit to school every single day, at the same time getting on the bus and at the same time getting off the bus. And you know this if you take public transit regularly, that you notice the same people who take that bus at the same time as you. So every morning I'd see pretty much the same people, and every afternoon I'd see the same people. And there's just like, we wouldn't talk to each other, but there was just like kind of an acknowledgement of like, I see you every day, you see me every day. So one day, as I was coming home from school, I was about to get off the bus to we were almost at my street, so I was about to get off in maybe like a stop or 2. And I noticed sitting across from me is this boy who is wearing my high school sweatshirt. Now, I need to say something about this. My high school, I went to an arts high school. We were not a school spirit type of school. I didn't even realize that we had these hoodies or sweatshirts. Nobody wore them. Maybe like some of the cheerleaders would wear their cheerleading uniform with our colors and our logo and stuff, but you never saw people just walking around with a school sweatshirt like you did in bigger schools. Our school was sort of a smaller art school. So not only did nobody wear these sweaters, but you knew, like everybody knew everyone. Even if you didn't know them by name, you could recognize somebody who went to our school. Especially me, I was in grade 11 at the time. I knew all the grade 12s, I knew all the grade 9s, and I could recognize, I knew all the grade 12s, I knew all the grade 10s. I was in grade 11, and I could recognize the grade 9s. Are you tracking with me? Okay, so I look at this boy who's wearing my school sweater, and I don't recognize him at all. And I think to myself, like, who is that? I've never seen him in my life, and like apparently he goes to my school and he takes my bus. I've never seen him on the bus. I've never seen him at school. And then I had this very intrusive thought. Remember this for later. I had this intrusive thought that was like, you probably don't know who he is because he's just a loser. And that was really strange for me to think that, because first of all, I didn't use the word loser. Like, that wasn't a word that we used at that time. Like, we didn't call people losers. And I just would never think that about somebody. Like, that was never like my internal monologue when I was thinking about people. I would never think that. And this boy, he looked a little younger than me, but like, he was cute and like, you know, just nice looking boy. Like, there was no reason for me to think that about him. Anyways, after I thought that horrible, mean thought about this boy, it was my stop. So I got up to get off the bus, and he got up to get off the bus as well, which I thought was weird because I was like, I know everybody who gets off at my stop. I've never seen this kid before. Okay, weird, whatever. So I get off, and I actually have to jaywalk across the street to get to my side of the street after getting off the bus. And so usually I look both ways, but this time I watched the bus drive away up the street, and then I immediately, without looking this way, which the boy was on this side, I was looking this way, and I go to cross the street without looking that way. And all of a sudden, I take one step off the curb, and I feel somebody tap like my backpack in my back. And I look over to him, it was the boy. He didn't say anything. He did not say anything, but he just pointed. I literally have goosebumps. He pointed to the way I wasn't looking, and immediately, like a truck just whooshed past me. I have goosebumps. Okay. So I was just kind of in shock, and I muttered sort of like, thanks. And I waited for the traffic to be clear and continued walking across the street. He was standing beside me as if he was going to cross the street as well, but he didn't cross the street. And it took a minute for it to sink in, but I realized I almost got hit by a truck. If that boy didn't tap me on the shoulder, I would be dead. Like, it took me a minute to just be like, I cannot believe that just happened. And I look back, the boy is gone. Like, he's not anywhere. I'm about to walk down my street, and I don't see him anywhere. And he was, standing beside me as if he was going to walk the same way as me, but he was just gone. As I'm walking down the street, just baffled by what happened, I think to myself, and you called him a loser. You called him a loser in your mind, and he just saved your life. And I felt so bad. And so this is what I think about that. First of all, I never saw him again. I didn't see him at school. I didn't see him on the bus. I never saw him again. I think that this was an angel who came in human form to save my life. I don't know why he was in my high school sweatshirt. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, but it really, I never forgot how impacted I was by that. The fact that I had this intrusive thought. And why would I have an intrusive thought that called this sweet little boy a loser? I think that was the enemy. Honestly, I think that was the devil knowing that this boy was an angel and just wanted to trash him for a moment. If that makes sense. That's how I feel, because it just wasn't my thought. And it wasn't the way that I thought that thought. It wasn't me in speaking like in first person, thinking, oh, I probably don't know him because he's a loser. The thought was, you probably don't know him because he's just a loser. Like, it was an intrusive thought. And I will never forget that. Like, some people would call that a glitch in the matrix. And because, I knew everybody who got off at my stop. He got off with me and then disappeared, and it ended up saving my life. I truly believe that was a guardian angel who came in actual human form. I've never experienced that type of thing again, like where an angel comes in human form or some physical form to save my life or talk to me or give me that was the only time that's ever happened. And I remember it like it was yesterday. The second time that I experienced a glitch in the matrix that I believe was a guardian angel, it didn't come in any type of physical form, but I'll tell you what happened. When I was really young, maybe 7, 8, about 6, 7, or 8, we used to go to this ravine, this massive ravine, me and my family. And there was a couple of like secret spots in this ravine. This one spot, you had to go up this hill and then through the bush, and like you had to know exactly where you were going, but all of a sudden you'd come to this clearing at the top of a massive drop. Like, it wasn't a cliff, it was technically a hill, but it was a dirt hill that just dropped like down. And at the top of this hill, there was trees, obviously, and there was this one tree that kind of jut out over the drop, And I don't know how someone got this rope up there, but there was a rope tied to one of the branches that jut out. Don't ask me how that ever got there. But the rope was then tied to the trunk of the tree, because if it wasn't tied to the trunk of the tree, it would hang out in the middle of this massive drop and you wouldn't be able to get to it. Well, on the end of that rope was a plank of wood. And back then, kids did really crazy things for fun that probably wouldn't be allowed today. But that was there so that people could untie it from the tree, run and jump and Tarzan swing out into the middle of the massive clearing drop, get a huge adrenaline rush, and then swing back, and then you'd have to like jump off and like when you got to the top of this hill, this dirt cliff thing. I hope that makes sense. It was dangerous, but it was fun. Me and my brother and my mom and my stepdad, we would go there all the time, and we were allowed to use this swing like all the kids did. Well, one day we went and we were swinging on the swing and doing the Tarzan swing, and I remember you had to do like a running jump and then hold on to the plank of wood. And I remember swinging all the way out so that it was just a pure drop to the very bottom of this dirt cliff. As soon as I got out, like 90-degree angle, I slipped. My grip slipped and I let go. And I dropped all the way to the bottom of this dirt hill cliff thing. But I remember when I let go and I was in the air that like everything got really, really slow. And I remember looking down. This is important too. I remember looking down, and I remember, again, like it was yesterday, I remember floating. I just floated slowly. I didn't hear anything. Everything was just soft and slow, and I just floated like a feather all the way down to the bottom of the hill. And I didn't even feel myself like hitting the ground. And I remember looking down the entire time. And when I realized what happened, I started crying, not because I was in pain, but just because I was scared and in shock that I was just at the bottom of this cliff all of a sudden. And I look up and I see my mom at the top, and she's screaming, she's freaking out. And I remember getting up and I was in zero pain. Like I should have broken my back. I should have broken my everything. I should have broken so many bones. I should have been probably unconscious. I was completely fine. I did not have one scratch. I did not have one bruise. I was not in any amount of pain. And I walked all the way back up this hill. And I was totally fine. And my mom said, "Is your back okay?" And I was really confused. And she told me that I had landed on my back. But I specifically remember, and I can still remember it in my mind's eye, like as if it literally just happened. I remember looking down the entire time and like floating and looking down. But apparently I was falling backwards. Like I landed on my back. But I saw myself like, if that's not a glitch in the Matrix, guardian angel moment, I don't know what is. But I truly, even at that time, like when I was that young, I still remember thinking like, I think that a guardian angel held on to me and then just slowly, very calmly just placed me down on the ground, and I was completely fine. Not a bruise on me. Insane. Some people would say that that's a glitch in the Matrix. Me personally, I think that that's a guardian angel moment. Now, those are my stories. I only have two that like really stuck out for me and like stuck with me my whole life, and I'll never forget. And those are those stories. But I wanted to let you guys hear some other stories from around the web. And I have two. This next story is very much glitch in the matrix, but I personally see God all over this story. It really reminds me of the book of Esther, where God isn't mentioned, but he's all over it. And this also goes into a whole other discussion about why really creepy glitch in the matrix things happen in the woods and the wilderness. And we can save that for another video because I looked into it and I do think that it is very spiritual. But regardless, I feel like certain areas in the wilderness, the veil is thin and the enemy can use that for his advantage to confuse and displace you. But we won't get into that. I'll tell you the story. This girl was on a ski trip and she was a beginner. She'd never been skiing before. So this was a ski trip with her school. And so they went to this resort, and when they got there, they split up into different groups. So she was in the group that was the beginners group. So they stuck to like this bunny hill area. And the bunny hills were very close to the lodge. And the more advanced hills were further away. Like the more advanced the hills were, the further away they were from the cabin, the lodge. So anyway, she was skiing with her group, and at a certain point, she was lagging a little bit behind. So she was the last one, because they all went down together as a group. And she was at the back of the group this one time when they were going down the hill. And they were about to turn around this corner, and she was the last one by maybe 10 seconds. So everyone else turns the corner 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, and she's the last one by like 10 seconds to turn this corner. When she turns the corner, everyone is gone. And like gone. Like she could see down to the bottom of the hill, there was nobody there. She looks back behind her, nobody's there. And so she decided, well, I'm just going to continue to ski down the hill. And I don't know where they went, but I'll find them when I get to the bottom of the hill. Well, she was a beginner and she kept falling over and stuff. So she decided to take off her skis and just walk. And she was walking and walking and walking, and it never ended. Like this little hill that she was on just never ended. There was nobody in sight, and she started to get really scared. At a certain point, the sun starts going down, and this is when she starts to panic a little bit. And she's just walking, and she just doesn't see anybody. All of a sudden, she comes across a ski lift that is like an old, rundown, sort of decrepit-looking ski lift, not the newer ones that she remembers being on when she was with the group. It's like an old one. So, but it's moving. The ski lift is moving. So she gets on the ski lift she's thought to herself, okay, let me get some like a vantage point, like so that she can see where she is. So she's going up. The ski lift is taking her up, and she looks out across, and all she sees is landscape. All she sees is snow. Like, this gives me goosebumps because it's so weird and creepy, honestly. I would be really scared too. At this point, she's on the ski lift and she sees nothing. She sees no cabin, she sees no skiers, and the sun is going down. And that's when she starts crying and she starts sobbing and she starts thinking like, I might die out here. The ski lift drops her off in the middle of nowhere. It drops her off like at the top of some hill, but there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And so she's still walking and she's crying, and then all of a sudden, like things are getting darker. It's getting darker. The sun is like pretty much almost down, and to the point where it's kind of dark already. And she sees off in the distance a light, and she just thought that was weird. So she walks towards the light, And this is where I feel like God is all over this. She's walking towards this light. She had like pretty much given up on life. She's crying, thinking she's going to die. She keeps walking towards this light. She just feels something in her telling her like, just walk towards the light, walk towards the light. She gets to the light and she sees that it is actually a staircase going down, like into the snow. And there's light like coming from this staircase. So she walks down the stairs. And when she gets to the bottom of the stairs, and like kind of turns a corner. It's a train station, like a subway train station. And she gets on the train, and when she gets, there's at a certain point she recognized the stop that the lodge was at. So she gets off, and she's back in like civilization. She's able to make it back to the cabin, the ski lodge. And she says that she remembers when she gets back to the ski lodge, she walks in and there's all of her classmates and stuff. And they kind of were like looking at her like, oh, hey, there you are. Like no sense of urgency. No, oh my gosh, you were missing. Like we sent out a search party, like da-da-da. Like nothing. They were so like, oh, hey, there you are. Like, how's it going? And she's like, didn't you guys notice that I was missing? And they're like, oh no, like kind of a bit in a little daze. And but then she was fine. Of course, she was okay. Thank God she was fine. Now, it has so many layers to it, which is why this story stuck out to me a lot. And she's not, like, this story also isn't unique. There's actually a lot of stories like this that happen in the wilderness where, in the wilderness or out in the middle of nowhere, you know, people driving in cars or, you know, on hiking trips or hunting trips or skiing trips, things like that, where, you know, they kind of turn a corner and everything changed. And it took a literal divine intervention moment of mercy and, you know, God's hand to bring them back into their reality and basically save their life. Because a lot of times people are like at death's door and then some divine intervention moment happens and they're okay and they survive. And that this story, she didn't mention God. She didn't mention her beliefs. She didn't mention the fact that it may be spiritual or not. She described it as like a glitch in the matrix, that she survived. Me personally, I see God all over this. Like the symbolism alone, she sees a light in the distance. There's something in her head that's like, move towards the light, like telling her to go towards the light. And then it's like this refuge that takes her back to safety when she thought that she was going to die and she was like giving up hope. There's a light that like represents this hope. And of course it was divine intervention. That is such an insane story. It's a true story. Like, can be back, like she's got receipts. And that one really stuck out to me. The last story that I want to tell is also another true story. This is actually one that was in a documentary. So they interviewed both the father and the son. You might recognize this story. Let me know if you remember it. It happened a while ago. Probably over a decade ago. And a father and son were out hunting. They were hunting in the mountains. And they were just wearing like, you know, t-shirt, vest type stuff because it was like springtime, I think, maybe early spring. And the same thing happened. All of a sudden, like, the son like turns a corner or something and he's separated from his dad. He doesn't see his dad. He's calling out to his dad. He hears nothing. Meanwhile, when they interviewed the dad said he was calling out for the son. When he realized his son was not there anymore, he hears nothing. And the dad is searching and searching and searching and searching. All of a sudden it starts getting late and it starts getting cold. And a snowstorm comes in on the mountain. So the dad had to make the decision to leave and go get help. So the dad leaves and he gets help, and a search party goes out. So there's a search party going out, but it's a snowstorm. And so eventually they had to, call off the search, and they were going to go back the next morning. This was a really bad situation because it's a snowstorm. Temperatures were very freezing, and the son was in a t-shirt. So the next morning they go back, and they did actually find the son. And the son told them what happened to him and how he survived. And that is where I feel like this was a guardian angel moment that angels manifested in the physical to save someone's life. So the boy said that he, eventually he was so cold and he was so weak that he hid underneath a tree and just couldn't move on anymore, and just sort of huddled up under a tree. There was snow everywhere. All of a sudden, these two massive elk come out of nowhere, and they start moving towards him. And he was scared. Like, I would be so scared if two massive elk came up to me in the middle of the forest. And he's throwing sticks at them and rocks and yelling at them to try to get them to go away. But they weren't scared, and they kept coming closer and closer and closer. And eventually they laid down on either side of him and used their body heat to keep him warm throughout the night. And it was those two elk laying next to him that kept this boy alive. And at first, when he told this story, the search party, the people in the search party, they didn't believe him, but he showed them where it happened, and you could see in the snow these two massive imprints where the snow was sort of melted, and it was obviously two massive mammals had been laying there, and the boy was and I was laying right there in the middle, they kept me warm all night. And in the morning they just got up and walked away, and shortly after they walked away, he was found. It's such an amazing story. And like I said, one you might have heard before, because it is a pretty well-known story. And I truly think that angels came down and manifested themselves as two elk. How wild is that? But, there are biblical references to angels manifesting as human, and just in general to either warn people, give them some sort of knowledge about what's going to happen, or to save their lives. And I think this is definitely one of those times. God has no limits, and I do believe that he sent down two angels in the form of elk to keep this boy alive. And those are the stories of either, some people would call it a glitch in the matrix. I'm not so sure about that last story, if anyone would really call that a glitch in the matrix, but I think most people would probably agree that that is a pretty clear instance of guardian angels. So that's the story for today. So I want to know what your guardian angel story is, or your glitch in the matrix story is. Let me know in the comments down below. I am so fascinated by these types of stories, especially from a spiritual point of view, because a lot of these glitch in the matrix stories, to me, I can see things that are happening in the spiritual realm in these stories, and I can see God moving in these stories. Some of them are really crazy, really wild, and I can't even make sense of some of them. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and let me know about your stories. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I love you so much, and I hope that I see you in the next video. Bye!